It's December 2021, and Spider-Man No Way Home is just on the horizon. A film where Spider-Man continues to be an enabler of Marvel's addiction to the many worlds theory. So it seems like a good time to look back at the many video game worlds that Peter Parker has taken us to over the years. Now, when writing this list, I was guided by the Golden Rule. No, not that one! The Golden Rule to qualify for this list is that as long as you can play as Spider-Man, it's fair game. So, face front, true believer, it's Snooty Nerds! Top 10 Spider-Man games! Even a clock that stops tells the right time twice daily. Well, unless Dr. Octopus rips his hands off, then it doesn't show the time at all. But I digress. The relevance of this statement is that even an infamous company like LJN can have their name attached to a good game every once in a blue moon. Maximum Carnage is a game I rented from Blockbuster a lot. A good old beat-em-up in which Spider-Man bashes the brains out of everyone in his path, including some more obscure villains from Marvel's pantheon of ne'er-do-wells, all to the background sound of heavy metal music, including some legally questionable covers of songs by Black Sabbath. Call me nostalgia blind if you must, because it's true. I rented this game all the time and I've only just now got the comic that it's based on. In addition to the beat-em-up gameplay and macho music, this may also be the first time you could actually play as Venom in a video game. Also, it is the only Spider-Man game to have its poster appear in an episode of the British sitcom Bottom.
It's going very well! Keep watching!
By the way, the main characters of Bottom are called Eddie and Richie. Spider-Man and Venom's fathers are Richard Parker and Edward Brock Sr. Coincidence? Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a coincidence. While on the subject of beat-em-ups, let's look at a game from Capcom, one of the two great kings of that genre. Decades before the Thanos snap became a meme, Capcom sent a bunch of Marvel superheroes on a globe-trotting expedition to recover the Infinity Gems. Now, I know that War of the Gems isn't specifically a Spider-Man game, but remember my criteria for this list. As long as you can play as Spider-Man, it's fair game. And can you play as Spider-Man in this game? Yes, you can. It's just that you can also play as Captain America, Wolverine, the Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man. In addition to the usual Spider-Man shenanigans, like wall crawling and web swinging for both combat and platforming, all the Capcom staples are here. Colourful graphics, large character sprites, great music, and even import commands like a Street Fighter game, a lot of which have become mainstays in the fighting game outings. You also get to use the Infinity Gems to give your heroes additional perks, like the Power Gem to increase your attack power, the Time Stone to move at super speed, and the gem that lets you find items easier. Wait, hang on a minute. Shouldn't the Spider Sense let him do that anyway? Or Wolverine's Feral Senses? But again, wouldn't Iron Man's armor have some kind of built-in radar? This is a pretty redundant gem if you ask me. Next on our list is Ultimate Spider-Man, or to give it its full title, Ultimate Spider-Man Hyper Fighting Championship Edition, The New Challengers. Oh, sorry, I seem to still have Capcom on the brain. Anyway, one thing that Activision and Spider-Man do well are open-world sandbox-style games, like this one that was released in the aftermath of a certain movie-based game that I can neither confirm nor deny will be on the list later. But while the colourful comic book-style graphics are quite nice, we'd already had an open-world New York to swing around in. What does Ultimate Spider-Man do that's different? Well, remember how in Maximum Carnage you could play as Venom? Well, it's the same deal in this game, but taken to excess. Throwing cars, destroying everything in your path, tremendous fun. And you could also make good on Tom Hardy's promise.
I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
Oh yeah!
Before Marvel became unhealthily obsessed with trying to turn Spider-Man into Doctor Who with the whole Spider-Verse thing, a team-up featuring various interpretations of the world call was a novel idea for the time. Taking a break from the open-world style of games, which I shall now refer to as Grand Theft Spidey, Shattered Dimensions is a linear action-adventure full to the brim with fanservice. There's 4 playable Spider-Men, each portrayed by a well-loved voice actor from the various cartoon series, and with several alternate costumes to unlock, and also an introduction by Stan the Man himself.
Hey there, true believers!
The 4 Spider-Men each have their own unique thing to bring to the table. There's Ultimate Spider-Man's Rage Mode, 2099's Free Falling segments, and Spider-Man Noir's Arkham-style stealth takedowns. With all the alternate universes that Marvel has sent the Wallcaller to, it's clear that no matter the dimension, sarcasm remains Spider-Man's first language.
Oh, do villains find me this annoyingly talkative? Don't answer.
Like War of the Gems, our next entry isn't about Spider-Man specifically, but he is in the starting party, the first boss is a Spider-Man villain, and let's face it, he's the one who's front and centre on the box art. Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an action RPG allowing you to build a team from over 20 Marvel superheroes, including Wolverine, Iceman, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and Deadpool amongst plenty of others. You can switch between characters on the fly, or invite some friends over for multiplayer. Yes, that's right. Co-op in an RPG is like Marvel meets Secret of Mana.
Ooh, now that hurt. And speaking of getting hurt, step away from those plans before I have to get medieval on you.
And now it's time for Snooty Nerd's nerdy-ass voice actor trivia. Did you know that in this game, Spider-Man was voiced by Quinton Flynn, who had previously voiced Johnny Storm in Season 2 of the 90s Fantastic Four cartoon? He's the only one of the cast who actually reprised his role for the crossover in the final season of the 90s Spider-Man series. But in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Johnny Storm was voiced by none other than Josh Keaton, who had famously voiced her title character in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. The game known simply as Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast is one of the most memorable action games of the early 2000s. Why was it so memorable? Because not only is the gameplay excellent, but it was basically a celebration of Spider-Man's history up to that point. In addition to several voice actors from the cartoons reprising their roles, you also have another introduction by Stan Lee.
Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike.
Then there are all the costumes that you can unlock. What's even better is that not all of them are just for decoration. Some of the costumes actually have their own perks, like 2099's Double Damage, or the Symbiote Suit's Unlimited Webbing, or the Unlimited Suit's Invisibility. Of course, they all become moot once you get the Captain Universe suit, which just breaks the game entirely. Then you throw in the hilarious What If mode, and you have the complete package.
Michael. Polo!
At the end of Spider-Man 3, Peter gives a speech about how we always have a choice. It's the choices that make us who we are, and we can always choose to do what's right. But we can also choose to act like a complete arsehole, as demonstrated in Web of Shadows. Like a choose-your-own adventure book, you get to decide if Spidey is a good boy, an anti-hero, or an outright villain protagonist. Like the choice to prevent a gang war, or just let those delinquents wipe each other out. The new combat system, letting you brawl with enemies on the walls or up in the air, was great fun to play with, as is switching between red and black suits whenever you want. Using the black suit to throw cars around at enemies will never not be fun. You've also got a bunch of allies who can help you during fights. They're recruited based on whether you're a goodie or a baddie, and there's even 4 different endings depending on your choices. Great power, great responsibility. Great power's plenty. Once again, we have a game that's not strictly a Spider-Man game, but an excellent game where you can play as Spider-Man. Yes, I know, the joke is starting to wear extremely thin. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is one of the greatest fighting games of all time. It's so addictive to get in a combo, launch your opponents into the air and keep punching away at them. But for the sake of this list, I'm going with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. There are 3 reasons for this. The first is that this game gives each character their own ending sequence, including an appearance by J. Jonah Jameson. The second is the pre-fight banter.
You got a black belt and stupid if you think you're gonna beat me.
Spiders. I hate spiders.
The third is the larger roster. You could not only have Spidey team up with the usual suspects like Wolverine, Captain America, Iron Man and Hulk, but also Nova and Iron Fist like in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Not to mention, you can finally assemble the dream team of Spider-Man, Deadpool and Phoenix Wright. What other game can you team Spider-Man up with Deadpool and Phoenix Wright? Absolutely none. A good game based on a good film is like a dog that speaks. Very rare. A game that's even better than the film it's based on is like a dog that speaks Norwegian. Even rarer. But Activision managed to pull it off with Spider-Man 2. The original Grand Theft Spidey game was revolutionary when it came out, with a digital New York that's as big as the real-life city. expands the story to include a few additional characters from Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, featuring Tobey Maguire, Alfred Molina, and Kirsten Dunst reprising their roles from the film. Not to mention the fact that Bruce Campbell is the narrator.
Welcome back, I guess. I'm sure you miss me more than I miss you.
Not only does the game boast an innovative combat system, but a physics engine that allowed the best web swinging in any Spider-Man game either before or after. In fact, when I was recording footage of the game for this segment, it was so addictive that I spent hours just swinging around the Big Apple, responding to random events, beating up minor criminals, or delivering pizza. Also looking for all the hint coins, just for all that Bruce Campbell's snarkiness.
If you're being attacked and you press the grab button, you'll do a dodge move as long as you aren't a total spaz. Now you need to time it right if you don't want to get hit too, so don't just freak out and jam on the grab button in a fight, okay?
Come to think of it, I wonder if Raimi ever considered Campbell to play Spider-Man in the film. Hey, a possible voiceover for the next Spider-Verse film? Now, before we get to number 1, let's have a good old recap. Number 10, Maximum Carnage. Number 9, War of the Gems. Number 8, Ultimate Spider-Man. Number 7, Shattered Dimensions. Number 6, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Number 5, Spider-Man for PS1 and Dreamcast. Number 4, Web of Shadows. Number 3, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Number 2, Spider-Man 2. You probably didn't need Spider Sense to see this one coming, but Spider-Man on PS4 really is that good. Now, I was tempted to put it lower on the list because of those annoying stealth sections, but then I played a good stealth section with Mary Jane, in which she acts as Spider-Man's spotter, and the game was back at number 1. When watered down to its bare basics, yes, it's another Grand Theft Spidey title, but with combat more like the Batman Arkham games, and a deep original story featuring classic villains and some lesser known ones too. There's plenty of side missions and events to keep you busy. Also, like Spider-Man on PS1, you also have plenty of alternate costumes to unlock, each with its own gimmick. You can even unlock his costumes from all the previous movie series. Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and the Tobey Maguire suits are all here. There's even a couple of subtle homages to those films.
That totally worked last time.
It was so much fun using that costume to rescue Mary Jane from the hostage crisis in the station. The fact that she's clearly modelled after Kirsten Dunst made me feel like I was watching a story concept for a possible Spider-Man 4. It's time for nerdy-ass voice actor trivia. Did you know that Spider-Man's voice actor, Yuri Lowenthal, is married to Tara Platt, who voices Captain Yuri Watanabe in this game? Inversely, Mary Jane's voice is done by Laura Bailey, who's married to Travis Willingham, the voice of Kingpin. It's also worth mentioning that Laura Bailey also voices Black Widow in numerous Marvel projects. This isn't the first time they've shared a voice artist, because in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Black Widow was voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who had previously voiced Mary Jane in The Spectacular Spider-Man. Additionally, in the video game adaptation of Spider-Man 3, MJ was voiced by Carrie Welgren, who later voiced Gwen Stacy in the adaptations of the Amazing Spider-Man films, and in newer projects, Gwen's voice is done by Laura Bailey, bringing the connection full circle. It's like the Garfield connection, but much deeper. Now, to finish up, I have some honourable mentions. The video game adaptation of The Amazing Spider-Man is another Grand Theft Spidey title that I've only played recently, but the new Web Rush feature makes navigating New York a lot of fun. Grabbing comic book pages is really addictive, and Sam Riegel did a great job with Spider-Man's voiceover.
Hey, where are you going? Off to eat pizza with your adopted turtle sons? Can I come?
There's also Lego Marvel Superheroes, another game that I've only picked up recently. It's fun and Spider-Man does show up a lot, but I've not played enough to really evaluate it. Also, I've already used that no specifically Spider-Man joke 3 times already. So that's my list of the top 10 Spider-Man games, along with a couple of honourable mentions. Do you agree or disagree with my list? Cause if it's the latter...
I missed the part where that's my problem.